Back in the day, nobody bet on the Ford Torino becoming a million-dollar legend. It was the blue-collar muscle car, overshadowed by Mustangs, Chevelles, and Chargers. But decades later, the overlooked street brutes and rare NASCAR specials people once junked have turned into the ultimate collector gems. Once parked in barns, buried in backyards, or run into the ground by fearless owners, these Torinos were written off as just another cheap Ford. But under faded paint and forgotten option codes hid some of the rarest muscle cars Detroit ever built. Today, with the right VIN, matching numbers, and a Marty report to prove it, these once-forgotten beasts now fetch six figures, and a few have crossed the million-dollar mark at auction. This is how 10 forgotten Torinos rose from scrapyard-bound to million-dollar status. Let's get into it. Top 1, 1970 Ford Torino King Cobra prototype. This wasn't just a muscle car, it was Ford's secret weapon. The 1970 Torino King Cobra was born to annihilate Dodge on the NASCAR track, but then it disappeared. From the outside, it looked like no other Torino, with a sloped nose, hidden headlights, and a front clip so aerodynamic it could slice air like a Ginsu knife. The King Cobra was a radical departure from Ford's boxy design language. Beneath the skin, a factory-installed 429 Cobra Jet V8, pumping out 375 horsepower and engineered to hit 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds. Only 3 prototypes were built, each one a test mule, never meant to see the street. The mission? To dethrone the Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird on the high banks of NASCAR. But just as the King Cobra was about to go full throttle, NASCAR changed the rulebook. Homologation rules now required 3,000 production units instead of 500. Ford pulled the plug. The project died. The prototypes were almost scrapped. Almost. One car survived, stored away like a forgotten relic. Decades later, collectors rediscovered it. Today, this prototype is a crown jewel among Ford enthusiasts. Valued north of $500,000, 0 cents, it's a symbol of what could have been and what almost never was. And while the King Cobra was too wild to survive on the track, another forgotten Torino was quietly roaming suburbia, hiding 429 cubic inches of fury beneath a wood-paneled grocery getter. Top 2, 1970 Torino GT 429 Thunder Jet Squire Wagon. It had fake wood on the sides and a roof rack up top. But under that family man disguise, a full-blown 429 big block waiting to ambush anything at a red light. The 1970 Torino Squire wagon was Ford's idea of practical style, meant for Sunday errands and cross-country vacations, but a few slipped through with something far more unholy under the hood, the 429 cubic inch Thunderjet V8. Paired with a heavy-duty C6 transmission and dual exhausts, this wasn't your dad's grocery hauler. It was a hidden brute, pushing 360 horsepower and ready to lay rubber. The GT trim added rally wheels, hood scoops, and a beefier stance. Inside, it kept the vinyl benches and wood-grain dash, but the speedo needle didn't lie. This wagon could run. But no one took them seriously. Most were sold off, scrapped, or gutted for their drivetrains. The idea of a muscle wagon didn't fit the era's narrative, so they faded out quietly, until a few die-hard collectors caught on. The surviving Squire GT 429S were rarer than Cobras or Mach 1S and way weirder. Today, finding a documented 429 Esquire wagon in original condition is near impossible. When one pops up at auction, the price can shoot past $100,000, 0 cents, fueled by shock value and nostalgia. What was once a laughable sleeper is now a 6-figure legend on 4 white walls. And while the Squire snuck through suburbia unnoticed, Ford's next forgotten monster was loud, flashy, and born from a Kansas tornado warning label. Top 3, 1970 Torino Twister Special 429 PJ. Ever heard of a muscle car named after a tornado? The 1970 Torino Twister Special was Ford's factory freak that brought storm-chasing stripes and Cobra Jet Thunder to the Midwest drag scene. In late 1969, Ford partnered with a group of Kansas City dealers to push some extra adrenaline onto showroom floors. The Twister Special was born, part promotion, part bragging rights. Around 90 Torinos got the Twister treatment. Each one came with a 429 Cobra Jet engine, ram air induction, and eye-popping Twister Special graphics that made sure you didn't mistake it for a plain GT. From the outside, it looked ready to spin up trouble. Bold hood stripes, Magnum 500 wheels, rear window slats. Details borrowed straight from the Boss Mustang playbook. But the real fun sat under the shaker hood scoop. A 429 Cobra Jet V8 rated at 370 horsepower, but insiders knew a well-tuned example pushed closer to 400. Backed by a 4-speed top loader and 3.5 traction lock rear, it was a Midwestern street bruiser with just enough factory polish. Inside, it was standard Torino muscle, bucket seats, optional console, and the signature Cobra badge on the dash. 0 to 60 in just under 6 seconds, quarter-mile times in the high 13s. Not bad for a car that doubled as a local dealer's best marketing tool. Most twisters got street raced into oblivion. Many lost their unique decals during repaints, making real survivors with original twister markings and matching numbers true collector trophies. Today, a documented twister special can command $150,000 to $250,000 at auction, with original paint and dealer docs pushing it even higher. But the twister wasn't the only Torino packing heat under a badge. Wait till you see the police special that turned Ford's family car into a secret highway interceptor. Top 4, 1971. Torino Cobra Jet 429 Police Intercept. How do you make a family sedan scare street racers? Give it a badge, a radar gun, and a 429 Cobra Jet under the hood. The 1971 Torino Cobra Jet Police Interceptor is one of the craziest factory-authorized sleepers Ford ever built. By 1971, big blocks were on the way out, but some state police departments wanted to keep up with muscle car outlaws. So Ford quietly offered a handful of special-order Torinos with the full 429 Cobra Jet package: ram air induction, dual exhaust, heavy-duty cooling, and reinforced suspension. They looked like your average 4-door or SportsRoof, but under the hood lurked the same beast that terrorized the quarter mile. Estimates suggest only 5,100 of these police interceptors were ever delivered, mostly to state troopers in the Midwest and South. They wore dog dish hubcaps, spotlights, and basic paint schemes, all the better to surprise speed demons trying to outrun them on open highways. Inside, the setup was all business: bench seats, rubber floor mats, extra gauges, and a certified speedometer. The 429 CJ made 370 horsepower on paper, but many were rumored to be blueprinted by local fleet garages for more bite. 0 to 60 under 6 seconds in a patrol car? Talk about unfair advantage. Most got driven hard, retired, and crushed for scrap. Almost nobody thought to preserve a used-up squad car, much less one with big block thunder. Today, a verified Cobra Jet Police Torino can hit $100,000, 0 cents, $150,000, 0 cents, if it still carries its original equipment, sirens, and State Department paperwork. There's something poetic about a highway interceptor turned collector's trophy, but it takes a special kind of charm to revive a forgotten regional special. That's exactly what the High Country Special did next. Top 5, 1968, Torino GT390 High Country Special. What happens when a car meant for mountain roads turns out to be a hidden muscle gem? The 1968 Torino GT390 High Country Special is one of those forgotten regional oddballs that collectors love to hunt. In the late 60s, Ford had a knack for regional marketing stunts. The High Country Special originally started with Mustangs to boost sales in Colorado's thin mountain air. But for '68, a few Denver area dealers convinced Ford to slap the High Country badge on the Torino GT and order a small batch with the 390 cubic inch V8 to make sure they could pull their weight at altitude. Only about 150-200 High Country Torino GTs were ever delivered, most as 2-door hardtops with unique emblems, extra bright work, and special color combos like Tahoe turquoise and sunlit gold. Under the hood, the S-Code 392 made 325 horsepower, more than enough for a quick blast up a winding pass. Paired with a C6 automatic or 4-speed manual and 3.25 traction lock, these Torinos were no slouches. Inside, they were pure 60s cool. Wood grain trim, bucket seats with console, and full GT badging. Most buyers never knew they were taking home something so rare, they just wanted a comfy family coupe with a little mountain muscle. When gas prices spiked and rust set in, the High Country Specials vanished fast. Many lost their special trim or got repainted, burying their true identity for decades. Today, a legit High Country Special with a Marti report can push $75,000, $100,000, especially if it still wears its rare paint and local dealer tags. Sometimes, a rare paint code is all it takes to transform a forgotten Torino into a collector's dream. Just ask anyone who's seen the shock value of Grabber Blue. Top 6. 1970. Torino Cobra Sports Roof Grabber Mulu. Sometimes all it takes is one jaw-dropping color to make a factory muscle car unforgettable. The 1970 Torino Cobra Sports Roof in Grabber Blue is living proof that paint can turn heads and skyrocket value. In 1970, the Torino Cobra was Ford's street bruiser, built to duke it out with Roadrunners and Chevelles SS 454S. But only a small handful left the factory wearing Ford's wildest factory shade, Grabber Blue. It wasn't just eye candy, it was a statement. Back then, the color code itself was a wink that this wasn't your uncle's beige family coupe. Under the sleek SportsRoof fastback sat the brutal 429 Cobra Jet Ram Air induction. 370 horsepower on paper, but closer to 400 in real life. Some buyers ticked the drag pack box, adding oil coolers and beefier rears. Only about 300-500 Cobras came in Grabber Blue, with the full CJ package, making them legit dealer lot freaks. Outside you got the full attitude. Blacked out shaker hood scoop, Magnum 500 wheels, optional stripes, and that signature Cobra Snake fender badge. Inside it was no-nonsense muscle. High back buckets, floor-shifted top loader, and a dash cluster that begged you to bury the needle past 120. 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds, with the top end only limited by your courage. Most got repainted drab colors in the 80s or lost their original powertrains. Today, finding one with real Grabber Blue paint, factory docks, and a numbers-matching CJ is almost unheard of. A verified Grabber Blue Cobra CJ can fetch $120,000, $180,000 at auction, with mint survivors pushing higher. Not every Torino flexed with paint alone. Some flexed with NASCAR aerodynamics, like the wind-cutting profile that made the Talladega Spoiler 2 so deadly on the superspeedways. Top 7, 1969, Torino Talladega Spoiler 2. How do you beat the fastest Mopars on the high banks? You build a Ford that slices the wind like a fighter jet. The 1969 Torino Talladega Spoiler 2 is a NASCAR-bred freak that turned overlooked streetcars into auction gold. By 1969, the NASCAR Aero Wars were at full throttle. Ford needed an edge to keep pace with Dodge's Charger 500 and the looming Daytona. So, the Talladega Spoiler 2 was born, a street-legal version of Ford's wind-cheating racer. Around 700 units were produced to meet homologation rules, each packing subtle tweaks that made all the difference. From the curb, the Talladega looked slick. The nose was extended and rounded by grafting a modified front bumper, actually a flipped rear bumper, to cut the wind. The rocker panels were rolled under to drop the ride height, giving it a low, mean stance. Aero wheels and unique rear deck spoilers added more downforce than anything else you could buy at a Ford dealer. Under the hood, most Talladega Spoiler 2S came with the 428 Cobra Jet V8, conservatively rated at 335 horsepower but rumored closer to 400 in race trim. Mated to a C6 automatic or 4-speed top loader, these homologation specials were as quick as they were rare. Inside, it was all business. Simple bucket seats, no-frills dash, and a speedo that begged to see 140 miles per hour on an open straight. Many Talladegas got driven into the ground or turned into short-track racers. Original aero bits got swapped or lost, burying their identity for decades. A documented Spoiler 2 survivor can pull $125,000 at $175,000 at auction, proof that NASCAR's aero genius didn't just rule Daytona, but now rules the collector's lane too. But not every rare Torino was born for superspeedways. Some were built to dominate the drag strip in a straight-line brawl, just like the 429 SCJ drag pack. That's up next. Top 8, 1970, Torino GT4 29 SCJ drag pack. When Ford decided to settle scores at the drag strip, they gave the world the 1970 Torino GT4 29 SCJ drag pack, a no-nonsense factory street brawler that's become a six-figure sleeper. In 1970, the Torino GT lineup gave buyers plenty of choices, but real street warriors knew what box to tick on the order sheet: the Super Cobra Jet Drag Pack. About 801,000 cars left the factory, with the 429 CJ under the hood, heavy-duty oil coolers, a 3.91 or 4.3 rear gear, and enough torque to make slicks cry for mercy. Outside, the drag pack cars didn't need wild stripes to announce themselves. Most wore the clean GT badging, Magnum 500 wheels, and the signature shaker hood scoop gulping air at every stoplight. The 429 SCJ was underrated at 375 horsepower, but anyone who's ever uncorked one knows these big blocks easily top 400 when properly tuned. Inside, it was pure business. Bucket seats, console-mounted Hurst shifter, and a dash cluster that dared you to keep your foot in it just a little longer. Quarter-mile times dipped into the mid-13s. Shocking for a full-size Ford coupe that could still haul the family on Sunday. Many owners never realized what they had. Some got repainted into mild grocery getters. Others lost their original engine blocks to backyard drag strips. Documented drag pack survivors with matching numbers are now the crown jewels of any blue oval muscle collection. A true SCJ drag pack Torino GT can hammer $125,000, $175,000 at auction today, especially if it has the Marty report to back up every nut and bolt. As brutal as the drag pack was, another Cobra jet sleeper lurked in 1969, one that packed ram air induction and a quiet attitude that fooled plenty of challengers at the light. Top 9, 1969, Torino Cobra, 428 CJ Ram Air. If there was ever a true blue-collar street assassin, the 1969 Torino Cobra 428 CG Ram Air was it, a quiet killer that hid big block muscle under a plain coat. In 1969, the Torino Cobra was Ford's answer to the Mopar big guns. Roughly 1,000 Cobras left the factory with the potent 428 Cobra jet engine and the optional Ram Air induction system that fed cold air straight into the beast. No wild stripes or flashy badges, just a shaker hood scoop and subtle Cobra emblems on the fenders. From the outside, it was all sleeper vibes. Fastback SportsRoof styling, blacked-out grille, Magnum 500S if you were feeling fancy, but mostly understated. Pop the hood and you'd see the 428 CJ, rated at 335 horsepower, but widely known to push closer to 400 when tuned right. Paired with a 4-speed top loader and a 3.5 or 3.91 traction lock rear, the Ram Air Cobra could click off quarter-mile times in the low 13s, enough to humiliate bigger names on Saturday night. Inside, it was Spartan but mean. High-back buckets, basic vinyl trim, a Hurst shifter poking out from the console, everything you needed, nothing you didn't. Many buyers ordered radio delete to save weight and a few bucks. These cars were often daily driven, raced, and abused. Some got parked behind barns when gas prices climbed, their shaker hoods rusting into the ground. That's why original, numbers-matching Ram Air Cobras are so hard to find today. A documented Ram Air Torino Cobra can hit $95,000 at $130,000 at auction, depending on how much of that original sleeper attitude it still wears. And sometimes, the final twist is that a Torino didn't need stripes or NASCAR aero, just quiet big block luxury to become a $1 million secret. Top 10, 1970, Torino GT, Brougham, 429 Thunderjet. What if your grandpa's luxury cruiser turned out to be a hidden big block brute? That's the story behind the 1970 Torino GT Brougham 429 Thunderjet, a car so polite-looking nobody suspected it could throw a punch. By 1970, Ford wanted the Torino to appeal to both muscle and luxury buyers. The Brougham package piled on the comfort, extra sound deadening, plush seats, wood grain trim, and bright exterior moldings. But for a small group of buyers, that quiet charm was just the cover story. Roughly 1,500–2,000 Broughams were ordered with the optional 429 Thunderjet V8, the same block used in Galaxies and big LTDs, but nestled into a mid-size GT that weighed far less. From the outside, these cars didn't shout. A vinyl roof, full-wind taillights, wire hubcaps or discreet Magnum 500S, and GT badging were the only hints that something serious lurked under the hood. Under that long hood, the 429 Thunderjet made around 360 horsepower and gobs of torque, moving the luxury coupe with shocking ease. Matched with a C6 automatic and a mild rear gear, it was the ultimate highway sleeper. Inside, it was all Brougham comfort. Thick bench seats, wood applique dash, air conditioning, and even power windows if you splurged. Few owners ever raced them. They were meant to glide down the interstate while keeping a subtle big block grin under wrap. Most Thunderjet Broughams were driven until they fell apart. They weren't seen as collectible, so rust and neglect claimed nearly all of them. Today, a fully documented Thunderjet Brougham, can surprise collectors at $65,000, at $90,000, especially if it's original and still carries its plush 70s charm. Sometimes the greatest sleepers are the ones that look like Sunday church cars but pack a secret punch that nobody sees coming. And the Thunderjet is still waiting for someone to rediscover it. These Torinos prove that true muscle never really dies, it just waits in barns, garages, and hidden fields to roar back as million-dollar legends. If you've got a forgotten street beast or an underdog story of your own, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And if you crave more lost muscle tales like these, don't forget to subscribe. This is Muscle Cars Revolution, where the rare, the wild, and the once overlooked come back swinging.